Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody whose friendship with her ex is shaking her confidence. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we are not. I can't wait to hear Sam's response to this letter, though.
Oh, no.
Well, I just think that you're going to, like, I have feelings and I think you have feelings. You know what I mean? And I can't wait to learn from them. This is all to say, Sam and I are not professionals. We are not trained in any of this. So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs on the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love after friendship, after love, after friendship.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
All right. Today's letter comes from Flickering Confidence, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing from a cold bowl of shame soup. That was more difficult to say than I thought it was going to be. Hi, howdy, hi, Sam and Sierra. My question is about how to shake off shame that is actively trying to scooch out my confidence, as shame does. Quickest backstory. Met a girl, she, her, let's call her Noah. Noah and I hit it off as friends right away. We had sex once about a year into our friendship after a night of drinking and flirting. It was fun and felt a bit thrilling as I hadn't embraced my bisexuality at this point. A year later, we have become best friends and the sexual attraction tension starts brewing again, especially our closeness. At some point, a few months into that, feelings are shared, and the long story short is we decide to try dating. We date for a month and a half-ish and then call it quits because she becomes distant, cold, and I constantly felt undervalued, like I was too much. I have never felt so small and crunchy in a relationship. This floored me because our platonic friendship was so strong and built on vulnerability, love, and genuine care for each other. Since the breakup, we have, over time, morphed back into best friends. We went on a trip together last year, which was hella fun. We see each other multiple times a week, send voice notes, and just overall are each other's person in life without dating. My dilemma now is that I feel like my confidence really flickers and wanes around her from time to time. It doesn't crop up that often, but when it does, I hate how small it makes me feel. She basically liked the thrill of us more than the actual of us, and she lost interest in me romantically and sexually pretty quickly when we started dating. None of this is a shitty thing she did, it's just a shitty thing to experience. There's also some internal queerphobia that she's battling that definitely gave us a disadvantage from the start, which I was not aware of. She recently mentioned that sometimes she's had sex in past relationships simply because she has a natural sex drive, but not necessarily because she really liked and wanted to have sex with them. We were just chatting about how dating is going for her, and she's doing a lot of work on understanding her relationship with sex. I, wincing inside, asked if this was the case for me. I know, why the hell did I ask? And in a roundabout way, she said, yeah, it kind of was. She assured me that she still enjoyed sex with me, but yeah, this just sunk into my gut like I swallowed something boiling and rotten. I cannot stress how much this makes me nauseous. Thinking about how physically and emotionally attracted and hopeful I was towards her and the prospect of us and how she was not at all there. In fact, she was going through the motions, all while slowly backing away and not expressing any of this doubt to me. This is not to say that I'm emotionally crushed that she's not a person for me. I'm absolutely at peace with that. Truly, I see it. I genuinely don't think that we are for each other romantically. I'm not out here pining for that relationship. But it does still hit me with a wave of feeling small, internal gut cringe, and honestly, feeling kind of gross are the feelings of rejection mixed with the fact that I just felt like I didn't know that it was hidden from me, and then I let myself be vulnerable in a place that wasn't safe. And on top of all that, currently, she is very, very much my best friend in life. How the hell do I balance these two things? How do I process through these feelings of rejection and feeling fully confident in myself and my worth while simultaneously holding and cherishing our friendship as much as I do? Grateful for any musings, even if they are hard to hear. It just helps to share a bit of the crunchy shame out loud. Big, big hugs to you and this community always.
Oh, my darling. Thank you so much for writing and trusting us with this crunchy little letter. I'm so sorry that you've been feeling those feelings of smallness and regret of, I don't know, just not feeling yourself, not feeling confident, especially from a person who is so actively in your life in hopefully so many other positive ways. It's very confusing, and I can totally understand why you're having a hard time holding these two truths at the same time. So Sam and I are going to mostly just affirm you that this is so tricky, and also like maybe don't have conversations with this best friend about sex. I don't know if that's a possible boundary, but no, we're going to unpack more important things than just that. But first we're going to take a very quick break.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Flickering Confidence, again, thanks for writing. Echo everything that Sierra said before the break. I think that this is really challenging. I do want to say, I think it's really great that you and Noah have figured out how to be friends again. It sounds like this is a really important person in your life. And I really believe you that you don't want a relationship with her, right? Like that you are in a place where you're like, that didn't work. I don't think that we're meant to be romantically entwined. And I really value the friendship that we have together. And I just want to offer the idea that recognizing that you are not good together romantically isn't the same thing as wanting and needing emotional support for the harms that she caused you in the relationship that you had, the romantic relationship that you had, right? Because one of these is I'm still in love with my best friend and I'm trying to figure out how to trick them into getting back together with me, which is clearly what's not happening here.
Clearly, we believe you.
No, absolutely. We believe you. Absolutely. But here's this thing of me and my best friend had a really rough patch in which she caused harm to me for lots of different reasons, and we're not talking about it, right? We don't have the tools to be able to figure out how to navigate when that hurt comes back up, which it's inevitably going to do because hurt comes up, right? There are different ways that somebody's betrayal of us will continue to unfold as we're in relationship with them. And that doesn't mean that we can't be in relationship with them or that they're bad people or that it's irreconcilable. And both people in that relationship need to be ready to engage deeply when that betrayal comes up, right? And what sounds like is happening in your letter is that you have a big feeling about the harm that this person has caused you, and then you eat it. You just
how's that taste?
You just you're about to say the thing and you're about to be oh, I'm hurt by this, but instead you just cover your mouth and you're go back in. This is not, and it makes me wonder a little bit how vulnerable your relationship can be if you don't feel like you can kind of say and ask some of these things with this person who's ostensibly your best friend, your most trusted person, the place where you can be the most vulnerable. If you can't be vulnerable about how this real thing that happened is making you feel.
Yeah. And let me illustrate something something very possible that I think could happen here is it's not like you need her to change the past. And it's not like you need her to be a different person. You love and appreciate your best friend, right? This is what I think could happen is you could say, hey, after she confesses that thing about, her relationship to sex, you can say, I think sometimes when I look back on our relationship, it makes me feel really small because of the ways in which the dynamic unplayed, or because of the ways in which the dynamic played out and how I'm hearing you process your relationship sex now. I want you to know that because I want you to know me, not because I need you to change anything. And it would literally be oh, I know, I'm really sorry that happened, hopefully. And then that's it. Literally, Sam's not suggesting that you guys rehash everything. It's literally just the act and intimacy of being known. Of what's hurting you right now is the swallowing. What was happening is that there was an effort disparity and you felt rejection and you felt, you're feeling all these small things, but those feelings you're having meta feelings about those feelings and you're not even talking about those feelings,
Yeah, for sure.
And I also want to say, like, you asked us specifically about like ways in which you can navigate this dynamic while maintaining this friendship. So let me do what helps me the most, which is offer some small perspective shifts so that you can maybe carry some of this pain differently. Friendships, having a friendship doesn't equate romantic compatibility no matter what trauma we have or like no matter what coping mechanisms we have. And it doesn't mean that you were lacking. Many friendships out there transition to romance and realize that that's not where they thrive, and then transition back. It doesn't mean that you were unworthy in any way. It doesn't tell me anything specifically about you. That's perspective shift number one. You're like, okay, yeah, Sierra, that's just like the icing of it.
Let's get to the cake.
The cake is, everything that you listed out to me was like, oh, dang, bummer about her. It seems like she's not available. It seems like she is emotionally distant. It seems like she is more erratic with her emotions. And I want to offer just something from her perspective is, of course, it was hidden from you. You keep saying like this was hidden from me. I was betrayed. Of course, this was hidden from you because that is what we do when we are hurting ourselves and others. It's not a healthy thing, but I want you to say I want you to acknowledge that it is very unlikely in any relationship for somebody to be so communicative about their own sort of intimacy unravelings. Does that make sense? Not that we shouldn't strive for that, but if she is just now, years later, unpacking her relationships to intimacy and sex and romance and everything, like, I imagine that in a month and a half long relationship, romantic relationship, there's not a lot of play-by-play from her to you about what's going on. I don't offer that to excuse her or to devalue your pain, but to instead be like, there's not many possibility. Like the reality of her sharing this with me more proactively is very slim. Like even if I was living in like a fairy tale, does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
That's like a weird thing to add. Maybe I'm like regretting saying it, but truthfully, I'm always looking for ways to look at my feelings from a different perspective, and not just saying, man, I wish you would have been more communicative with me. Switching that to like, she was keeping things to herself for a reason because she felt ashamed or she didn't know her feelings or like that was her communication burden, not mine. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's really helpful, right? Like in sort of humanizing this person and like taking some of the burden off of ourselves of like, I should have known better, which is like, no, you shouldn't, right? Because like that you didn't know. So how could you have possibly known better? And I also think that like, it's important to recognize that, this person, your friend Noah, is worthy of empathy and worthy of being seen as a complex human who withheld information because of her own queer phobia, who, maybe struggled to be in relationship with you because of the ways in which her internal processes were challenging her, right? Like who was going through something and that's why she wasn't communicating, right? Like I think that you're doing that work of trying to have empathy for the complex human being that is your friend. And that complexity still caused harm to you, right? And what I'm struggling with, and I think what you're struggling with in this with your friend is that she's having some like moments of self-awareness, right? Where she's like, oh, maybe it was my internalized queer phobia that has kept me from being in relationship with other women, right? Or I'm realizing that like when I'm in a relationship, I'm not actually attached to the person. I just like I'm having sex with them to have sex with them, right? Like, cool. I'm glad that she's having these moments of self-awareness, right? And unraveling some of the ways that her ways of thinking are affecting her in the moment. But what I think is a struggle for me, and it sounds like is a struggle for you, is that like that self-awareness isn't tied to any accountability for how the thing that she was dealing with has affected you. Like it's like, yeah, I can totally understand why like internalized queer phobia might like impact our relationships 100%. And her queer phobia impacted her relationship and caused you harm, right? And there's like, so far it sounds like you two are struggling to figure out how to talk about that in a way that offers some accountability for how poorly she treated you. And for you to be able to have like the vulnerability and safety to say, yeah, that thing that you were going through really sucked and it came out on me. Like, and it wasn't cool. And I understand that it's complicated and I love you and I still want to be your friend. And also like, this is how it landed on me and it wasn't good. Right. Like, and so I'm wondering what has the forgiveness accountability piece of your relationship looked like since you two broke up? And have we skipped it? Right? Have you skipped it into a place where it's just like, yeah, then we started texting each other memes again every other week. And then suddenly it became to talking every day, blah, blah, blah. And now we're best friends who talk about everything. But there's still this like hole that is like going to continue to like erupt a bunch of stuff that hasn't been dealt with, that hasn't like offered where you haven't been offered any sort of like healing around. And it seems like that's what's coming up. And then of course, like a good JBU listener, you are internalizing it and you're like, oh my God, it's my fault that I'm feeling bad about the fact that this woman that I had sex with said that she only has sex with people, including me, because she wanted sex, but not because she liked me. Like, that's a hard thing to hear.
A hard thing to hear.
And an insensitive thing to say to someone that you've had sex with.
I feel like the ex feels so safe with you and is obviously going through like Sam said, really important life revelations that we are all here for. But that is also making her, the safeness and whatever is going on in her life is making her unable to access her caretaking and her sensitivity to the fact that like, you are that, you know what I mean? I feel for her. I really do. And also this is not because you can't be friends with your exes, but this is the line you have to walk on. You know, you have to have appropriate amount of accountability and forgiveness so that you can move forward fully. And I want to say this to our listener, and I want to say this to our letter writer. I can tell from your letter, you don't need a lot from your friend in order for you to let this go wholly. You know, you would probably need the smallest acknowledgement from her, just that like, yeah, I'm sorry that this is how that went down. You know, you will always need to work on the way that you love yourself, the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you receive life's conflicts and work to not internalize them, as Sam said, you know. But also I can see this. This is not like one of those situations that in many of our letters where we're like, you need a break from this friend so that you can be friends with her. But you do need something, right? Tell us that. Like you wrote into two strangers, you need something from her. In order to, and it could just be one conversation and then you can move forward differently. I said earlier when we started this episode, like maybe there's a boundary that you don't talk about sex. For my best friends and I, that's not a reality. And also maybe that is for you, or maybe it is that you can talk about sex after you have this wound in you acknowledged, right? Just having our pain acknowledged in the smallest way is so empowering. So I don't know. What do you think, Sam? What sort of boundaries can you imagine moving forward for this listener?
I think that I am less concerned about boundaries and more concerned about like, how are you taking up space in this relationship so that you're not just like making yourself small enough that this person won't be reminded of how badly they treated you during this period of time that you were together. You know, like I want this to be a reciprocal relationship where she gets to have all of these revelations about herself and you get to also say, this hurt me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's missing. And that's also why your feelings, like why your confidence is being so shaken, because you're dealing with all of this on your own while she gets to deal with all of her stuff out loud to you, which is like, fine. But you also need to be able to take up space, right? Like, and I mean this to say like this relationship should be reciprocal. There should be an ability for you both to talk about and get what you need out of it. And I think some of your sensitivity to like not making her feel bad, or like using your powerful empathy muscle as a way to not think about your own pain or needs in this, or like making her feel uncomfortable, is like a challenge. So I think that like one of the boundaries that I think you need to have for yourself is like, I'm not just going to let stuff like this slide, right? Like if I'm feeling some sort of emotion about something that's happened to us or the way that she's treated me, I'm not just going to swallow it. I'm actually going to say it out loud. And if that is not something that she can receive or believe from me, then like that's not a relationship that has the depth that I think that it does, right? Like if you're not able to say, this hurt me, and I want you to see that hurt and have her be receptive and open to it, then for me, that would mean that my relationship isn't as strong as I think it is, right? Like, then it would be like, oh, okay, so then we're just like, we're surface level friends then. Like, or we're friends where you get to say whatever you want, but I don't. And how does that make me feel as somebody who's in relationship with somebody? And it's scary to, I think, put yourself out there and like make that thing known, right? Like put that sort of reality into place. But I want this relationship to be as successful as possible. And I don't want you to internalize all of the things that you're feeling that are 100% justified and understandable and deserve to be seen and heard in this relationship that has had a lot of complicated aspects to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful place to end this. We know this is all very nuanced, and you are the one who knows yourself and this friendship more intimately than we do. But we also see very obviously that even something little needs to shift here in order to have not just the longevity in a healthy, happy friendship, but for you to have a safer and healthier relationship to yourself and the perspective of the hurt that you're feeling, right? That you did not cause it. This is not because you are unlovable or unworthy, but because this is what happens in relationships when people are showing up with not enough tools or the wrong coping mechanisms or whatever. It's really hard to take something that feels so hurtful and intellectualize it. And you have to start by saying that I'm valuable, I'm lovable.
Sure.
It's really sad, making space for that pain.
Yep.
And Sam and I know you can do it.
For sure.
We love you, and
Absolutely.
we hope this helps.
Thank you so much for writing. All right, everyone. It is Friday, and on Fridays, we try and set you up on a blind date, which is when we try and send you home with something that we think you're really going to like. And this week, our blind date is...
It's a cookbook called Seriously So Good, Simple Recipes for a Balanced Life by Carissa Stanton, who is a food blogger, cook person. What do you call them on like Instagram influencers that cook food?
A chefluencer.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Exactly. It is a cookbook that I took out from, I reserved it from the library when I heard she was publishing a book, because I really like the recipes that she publishes online. That's why I follow her. And honestly, I have literally been going through and making different recipes, like 3 or 4 different recipes a week for the last 3 weeks, because apparently nobody else in my library has requested it. So I keep on renewing it.
Great. Love that.
And they have been 9.5 to 10s, all of them. They're just the exact style of food and style of cooking that I really like making. And they have just so been bomb.com. I just really have been loving them. So
amazing.
It's called Seriously So Good by Carissa Stanton.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to all of the back catalog of episodes, which is hundreds and hundreds. So you can get those at patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music, recording, editing, producing all magical things from our good friend, singular, one person, Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcast and his music. And remember, you are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to not just listen, but to ask clarifying questions and share your own experience. Your pain doesn't go away if you ignore it. In fact, sometimes it goes away so quickly just by having someone else hold it with you for only a moment. Invite them in. You deserve it. And if all else fails,
just break up.